have in our midst Dr. Sigamani Paneer, Professor and Head, Department of Social Work, School of Social Sciences, Central University of Tamil Nadu, Thiruvarur. Sir is a visiting professor in the School of Public Health, University of Minnesota, USA, Jisho University, China, and other leading colleges in Tamil Nadu. Sir has a reputation of published articles in national and international journals, and he has completed UGC and ICSR projects already. And very importantly, a very effective speaker. And today, Sir is going to talk on global health diplomacy during and after COVID-19. So this is the title Sir is going to talk. And I request the participants, since this is the final day of the program, there are a few announcements will be there. At the end of the session, we will announce. And so be tuned until the end of the session. Now it is over to Dr. Sigamani Paneer, sir. Sir, you please.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Sir, voice is clear? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, your voice is clear, sir. You proceed.
That's great. Most respected Professor C. Subramanian, Professor and Head, Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Annamalai University, Chidambaram. Dr. J. Subramanian, Coordinator of the program, colleagues, friends, and delegates. Very good afternoon to all of you. Let me take this opportunity to thank Professor C. Subramanian for giving me this opportunity to share my perspectives and views on global health diplomacy during and after COVID-19. So this global health diplomacy is one of the major areas that we need to understand when we are looking at the pandemic crisis across the globe. So I initiated a conceptual review on this topic. I would like to dedicate this work to helping professionals and victims of COVID-19. So primarily this work, this particular talk, today's lecture is divided into 12 subsections. I'll try my best to consolidate as many points as possible as part of the global health diplomacy under the following headings. So the first heading, I'm going to briefly describe the expected outcome of my talk. At the end of the 1 hour, the learning outcomes. Number 2, so introduction and data sources. 19% of my ideas and my views were depends upon the available data and other sources. And the limitations of those sources, followed by background and the objectives of this particular paper. I have developed a few objectives based on the theme. And then the conceptual framework of global health diplomacy. Everybody is talking about global health diplomacy. I would like to contextualize the meaning and as well as operational definition of global health diplomacy. For instance, any kind of global crisis, either it's a humanitarian crisis or disasters or a pandemic crisis or climate change or growing health inequalities. So internationally, we have several stakeholders. We can call it as them as a multi-stakeholders, which includes bilateral organizations as well as multilateral organizations. So therefore, through the conceptual framework, I'm going to explain the basic meaning of global health diplomacy, followed by taxonomy of COVID-19. I'm sure in the past so many days, you might have heard so many things about COVID-19. Through my talk, I'm going to draw special attention on those issues or concerns related to the global health governance and global health diplomacy. emerging trends in global health governance. So I'm going to interchangeably use these two terminologies, global health diplomacy as well as global health governance, followed by lessons learned. I'm also going to draw lessons from industrialized economies, including United States, Italy, Spain, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and also emerging economies, lessons from Cuba, India, Brazil, China. And priority areas in global health governance. So after analyzing those aspects, I'm going to list out around 8 priority areas that we need to immediately look upon, followed by certain suggestions related to research in this area, policy framework, summary, and conclusions. So this is what the structure of my talk. So throughout my talk, I'm going to refer few terminologies. So those terms have been listed over here: COVID-19 pandemic, global health diplomacy, global health governance, geopolitics or transboundary issues, evidence-based policy, cross-agency collaboration, networking and collaborations, multilateral and bilateral agencies, market multilateralism, and effective global response. So this is also one of the learning outcome of my talk. At the end of my talk, I'm sure you will understand the conceptual meaning of those terminologies. Let me start. The learning outcome or key highlights of my talk includes 8 major points. The first one, to understand dynamics and interconnectivity of health, society, economy, and development in global health development context. When we look at the global health development context, so we can't see things in isolation. Like determinants of health, which includes biomedicine, which includes social development, which includes environmental aspects. Therefore, so we are going to look at as a kind of holistic view and its interconnectivity. Second, to understand health determinants and interdisciplinary approaches in global health diplomacy. In global health diplomacy, I'm going to explain it later. We have that strictly following that the interdisciplinary framework in this particular context, like the relevance of economics, the relevance of political science, public administration, business management, law, medicine, etc. To examine COVID-19 pandemic and its impacts on health and development in holistic way, strategies for rebuilding healthcare system through global health diplomacy, because across the globe, the global health diplomacy will strengthen the world international health and international development. Policy directions based on evidences to save lives and protect livelihoods. To learn multi-dimensional approach, multi-diplomatic mechanisms during the crisis. The role of diplomacy in health is vital as health becomes an ever more critical elements in foreign policy, security policy, development strategies, and trade agreements. For example, drug policies. And right now, the major interventions related to COVID, we have several other policies related to security and then drugs, equipments, medicine, etc. The last one, to understand current and future issues in global health diplomacy. I'm also going to list out the challenges and opportunities before the international organizations. So contemporary society witnessed humanitarian crisis, including major disasters, chronic poverty, increased inequality, regional conflicts, civil wars, disasters, global climate change, pandemics, and growing inequalities. To find alternative solutions that solves complex problems at the same time, here I'm going to suggest global health governance is also one of the model we can resolve those problems. The debate of sustainability development models, we had MDGs and now SDGs. Now, based on the COVID-19, we may need to rework on the existing model of SDGs. Holistic solutions to re-examine the network of complex problems, health and development threat around the world, lack of vulnerability analysis, global impact assessment to draw future directions through global health governance. The last, why global health diplomacy matters for international development. Because this is all about political economy of international development. So major data sources for this particular talk, I extracted information from several journals, including American Journal of Public Health, Future, Biosciences, Science Advances, Elsewhere journals, Lancet, Sustainable Science, like that, so many other journals. The list have been presented over here. The major limitations of this particular paper, three points I would like to highlight over here. Limited availability of data. I was looking at data related to the impact of global health governance in COVID interventions. Very, very limited data is available. And impact assessment studies, it's also not available. Limited access to research papers. Some papers were available, but they were asking for the subscriptions. Therefore, it is not available for the access. So I developed the conceptual note based on few points related to the background, which includes, with the rapidly changing ecology, climate change, epidemics, will become more frequent. So growing problems, pandemics, climate change to natural disasters, and possibilities for evaluating and prescribing relevant policies. Uncertainty, complexities, new knowledge process, that's also another issue. So integrate best available knowledge, reconcile values and preparedness with the help of global health governance. Global vulnerability to emerging and re-emerging threats to humans, interlink between society, economy, environment, and development, relevance of economic and mathematical model for predictions. Here again, there are scientists who are working on the impacts of the decision by the global health governance on the pandemic crisis by using certain models. So in the past, across the globe, we have witnessed several crises, starting with the global financial crisis during early 20s, natural disasters, fall of Berlin Wall, dissolution of Soviet Union. So why I am presenting all these issues? For each and every issues, global health diplomacy, those international organizations played a major role in rebuilding the states or reconstructing the damaged system. So COVID-19 challenges for all public systems across the globe, whether it's United States or Brazil or India or China or South Korea, it's a major challenge for everyone, far-reaching consequences beyond the spread of COVID-19, because the impact that was gone beyond health, that has gone back to environment, economics, uh, like industrial production system, employment opportunities, etc. National and international context with development, COVID-19 added to the existing problems, including communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, inequality, gender issues, unemployment, starvations below poverty line. Because right now, everybody's focus is on preventing and treating the COVID cases. But what about those existing problems? According to WHO projected the global burden of diseases, deaths due to communicable diseases like infectious diseases and non-communicable diseases is much, much more than the COVID deaths. Health has become an area for diplomatic engagement, because here this is about the global partners initiatives in terms of dealing with the crisis. So 4 specific objectives of this particular paper. The first one, to understand the interlinkages between health, economy, and society. Second, to assess the pandemic crisis, explore health and development implications of COVID-19. Third, to compile possible and easily workable strategies for solving unsolved problems of COVID-19 through global health diplomacy. Global health diplomacy, it includes 2 major aspects. Number 1, the financial allocations, the budgetary support or grants in aid, and second, the technical support. The fourth one, to understand the role of multi-stakeholders in time of crisis. When I say multi-stakeholders, we can divide them into two categories: multilateral organizations as well as bilateral organizations. Multilateral organizations including World Bank, IMF, WHO, and UN organizations. Bilateral agencies, which includes EU's, USAID, DFID, etc. To and the last objective is to explore challenges and responses of global health diplomacy. So what is global health diplomacy? So the issues affecting health or environment or climate change that cannot be resolved by one country or agency working alone. Like we have G8, G20 nations, SAARC nations. They say follow similar kind of philosophy of global health diplomacy aspect. So it is a creative engagement of multi-stakeholders. As I said, multi-stakeholders means bilaterals and multilateral agencies, including governments, international agencies, civil society organizations, and private sectors. It brings together the disciplines of public health, international affairs, international relations, geopolitics, management, law, economy, public policy, etc. It is also deals with trans-border issues, especially security issues. Now the health issues has become a security issues. The history and evolution of global health diplomacy. When we look at the history, it goes back to the Second World War. The Second World War reconstructions include several things, including the reconstruction of the global economy. So the formation of United Nations, UNO, WHO, World Bank, these were the major initiatives for the reconstruction. International health cooperation has been integral to the development of diplomacy in the last century. Because, in terms of security regions, conflict resolutions, dealing with war kind of situations, dealing with the climate change, dealing with the pandemic kind of situations, the international health corporations played a major role. Multi-level, multi-stakeholders negotiations process is a defining characteristics of diplomacy. Creation of the World Bank, UN organizations, and WHO, and its role in global health diplomacy and international development. They played a vital role in international development. So here, the diplomacy, it is nothing but the elements in which the reasonable relationship between countries. It is not just only one individual, between the countries to countries. So one country to another country, it is called the bilateral relations, and one to many, that is called the multilateral relations. In the both the relations, we have the five segments we need to follow it strictly. The first one, developing a mutual understanding, otherwise there will be a breakup, there will be a problem. Building a trust between two nations, negotiations, cross-cultural understanding, economic ties, and partnerships. Now, the COVID-19 has a major impact on these particular aspects. So, the global health problems. So, this table, it's not just only describing the global health issues, it is also talks about the developmental issues. For example, the communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, injuries, transboundary pollutions, which includes biological, chemical, and radiological terrorism, lack of funding for tobacco control, because the deaths due to tobacco-induced diseases are all more compared to even other diseases, poverty, hunger, poor education. So we have a bunch of problems here. Those things can be part of the global health problems, which is again a concern of global health diplomacy, which engages all branches of government, both state and non-state stakeholders. So public health epidemics starting with 2001 to 2020. So we had a major concern over here. WHO has declared the following pandemics are the global health emergencies, and then they brought up the global health governance as a major roles to deal with these issues, such as anthrax, SARS-1, H1N1 flu, wildlife polio virus, Ebola virus disease, Zika, and now COVID-19, which is also known as SARS-2. So every epidemic, the pandemic, this has been characterized as the globalizing risk and the localizing threats. Look at the wildlife poliovirus, anthrax, SARS, Ebola, Zika, and COVID-19. So here, the WHO plays a major role in terms of prevention, control, and also providing essential support systems to the world, including developed countries as well as the developing countries. 2020, it is just the month of June, we had so many disasters, starting with the Brazil landslides, Jakarta flood, Amazon rainforest, and in India we had so many cyclones, Australian forest fire, and then now COVID-19. So the COVID-19, few points I would like to present it again. At the end of 2019, a serious pneumonia cases of unknown cause emerged in Wuhan city, and mid January 20, deep sequencing analysis from lower respiratory tract samples identified a novel coronavirus. Then they named this. This is known as the SARS-CoV-2. So 11th February 2020, the WHO named the disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 as COVID-19. March 11th, the number raised, and then WHO declared this is the pandemic status. Today, today's data, 28th June 2020, the COVID-19 is affecting more than 216 countries and territories around the world, reported a total of more than 10 million confirmed cases of the COVID-19 and a death toll of more than 5 lakhs. So what is the problem? So this has become a humanitarian challenge or humanitarian crisis. When we look at the data by McKinsey and Company, some few facts and insights, what they say is the right time, the global health governance need to play a critical role in terms of rebuilding economy, in terms of providing technical support, in terms of strengthening the available healthcare facilities across the globe through negotiations, navigating global health. So the political economy of global health diplomacy interventions in prevention and control of COVID-19. So we have a quote here. I think people haven't understood that the COVID-19 pandemic isn't the next couple of weeks. This is about at least minimum next 2 years. I would like to present a matrix over here about the route of transmission of the most affected countries. Now, the basic fundamental philosophy of global health diplomacy, trust between countries to countries. Now, one of the preventive measures for this particular pandemic, those countries had pandemic, this COVID crisis in the beginning. So I seriously suspect the two major issues, their accountability towards their commitments and also the transparency in terms of providing the data related to the causes, consequences of this particular virus, and also undermining the impact of this particular virus. So as the WHO said initially, those countries have not given proper information related to the crisis, this particular virus. Therefore, it had a major impacts on individuals, major impacts on nations, major impacts on every country. Therefore, the 7 major concerning points related to the global diplomacy is that every discussion and every meeting, they are insisting across the globe to follow these points. Need to strengthen the existing extensive testing centers, testing, contract tracing, community mobilization, setting up temporary shelter homes for migrants, crisis precautions, cluster containment strategy, public health surveillance. So we have some data related to European perspectives of global health diplomacy. In that context, what they're talking about rebuilding the healthcare system as well as the economy. So few more points I would like to specify over here. COVID-19 pandemic and the associated economic and social crisis are posing huge challenges. Availability of best accurate information Emerging issues related to jobs and income of millions and people, social safety net, income support schemes, burden on women, and migrant workers, informal sector workers. One of the most serious challenges of the world faced in the recent times, even after the Second World War, the financial crisis, all other crises, this is one of the major crises. Total cost is yet to be unfold. Restriction on economic activity, including no production, firms unable to sell their goods and services, high economic and social cost around the world, social distancing and lockdown and quarantine had again another major impact. Changes in the production and consumption pattern, share market crashes, closure of business operations. Sending millions of workers back home, which may result in labor crisis. Borders have been closed, value chains have been disturbed, travel, trade through institutions closed across the globe. More than 30 million people could fall into poverty line. This will severely impact the health and well-being of large parts of the population. This data was given by UNDP as well as the World Bank. So in the past, pandemic crisis had a major impact on everything. For example, social, economical, and political. Like for example, Ebola, HIV, Spanish flu, SARS 1 and 2. The origin and pandemic crisis began with the human-animal interface to the disease emergence process, future prevention strategies, which include social mobilization, public health education, behavioral change, and communication strategies. So we had an interesting publication by Nature, the new 21st Century Science for Effective Epidemic Response. In that paper, authors, they have concluded by highlighting the relevance of international organizations in terms of prevention and control. This particular COVID, which is again reflected on the absence of lack of public health surveillance and epidemiological data. That's the reason the problem, it is increasing like anything. In China, the strengthening of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention has been a turning point in outbreak response in the area. This represents very welcome progress and development for global health security and diplomacy. Because the global health diplomacy, they give direction to almost every country. So we had a paper in Social Sciences Journal by MDPA. In this paper, they've again highlighted the problem and also the response of the global health diplomacy. I'm going to highlight those points sooner or later. So this is the data right now, today's data update. So pricing infectious diseases. This point I already highlighted in terms of economic loss and financial loss due to this crisis. This table represents the most devastating pandemic in the last 100 years. We had a Black Death, and now COVID-19. Both had a major impacts on so many aspects. Historically, disease outbreaks have happened at time of social inequality and discourse. Here they're talking about the critical aspects of biomedicine. You know, they say the health is not just only biomedicine. We have several other determinants, including the social determinants. There are several risk factors are associated with COVID-19. Paper published in Global Challenges Journal, which talks about sharing of virus data that has happened in the beginning of Jan or end of December, when we had the COVID situation in China. Sharing of virus data across globe might have prevented so many other aspects, but here they say, you know, it's one of the critical issues. Government trade and access to medicine is a critical issue. Child health, maternal and newborn health, management of communicable and other non-communicable diseases, including occupational health, mass casualty management, like what has happened in Italy, now the situation in New Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai. It's going to be a very critical nutrition status, sexual and reproductive health, trauma care, water sanitation, and hygiene problems. So the COVID-19 is unleashing the human development crisis, hitting hard on all of human development's constitutive elements, which includes health inequality, educational impact, gender issues, domestic violence, individual isolation, psychological impact, economic impact, political impact, environmental issues, person with special needs, including elderly issues, religious impact. I was going through the program schedule. I'm sure other speakers might have explained all those points. I will not go into detail, but still I would like to highlight those main points. So put together all these 11 points, these were known as challenges and opportunities in the post-COVID-19. This was given by the World Economic Forum. Now, in terms of rebuilding the economy, World Bank, IMF, WHO, and UN organization need to play a major role. Look at this quote by Ms. Geeta Gopinath. This is a crisis like no other, and there is a substantial uncertainty about its impacts on people's lives and livelihoods. This makes the Great Lockdown the worst recession since the Great Depression, and far worse than the global financial crisis. That means we need to take a right kind of intervention strategy to prevent further impacts on economy, livelihood, and development. So data published by Oxfam, they says COVID-19 could push 500,000 people into poverty. They've given data continent-wise. The limited official data is available up to till date. Surveillance system, I really suspect how far it is working, because lockdown after lockdown, the infection rate is going up, death rate is going up. Therefore, I don't think so our surveillance system is effectively working right now. Unreported number of cases and infections. We really don't know number of testing centers across the globe. Right now, cases in urban areas is increasing like anything because they have increased the testing centers. So the similar situation also need to be implemented. Testing centers across India, every village, every place. Then only we'll come to know the exact numbers and exact number of infections. Lack of integrated action plans. That's the reason we are finding it so difficult to achieve results. High dependency on private healthcare system. It's not just a new phenomena. Out-of-pocket expenditure is more in India. Lack of adequate facilities in the public system. Right now, the available facilities have been utilized for mostly COVID cases. And what about C cases due to communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases? So uncertain times call for country capabilities. This was the wording given by the World Bank as well as IMF. Weak health system. The COVID-19 reflected again the weak health system across the globe. Lack of access to resources and knowledge base. Public health and development emergency. Pandemic risk management for health. Advocacy and networking. Creation of sustainable system. Multi-stakeholders actions. Felt need versus real needs. Developing adaptable and resilient system. Developing a robust evidence-based system. Therefore, they're suggesting that effective measures need to be deployed in terms of controlling the infectious diseases, such as hand washing, routine cleaning and disinfection, handling and preparing food safety, immunizations, correct use of antibiotics, animal safety, like other bunch of activities. So we have an interesting book by Colin McKeon on framing global health governance. So the global health governance issues related to the COVID-19 has several issues. Number one, lack of post-crisis reconstruction and recovery strategies. Weak legal and institutional mechanisms have been exposed. Weak infrastructure facilities, including communication network. Lack of systematic and periodic assessment. Lack of accounting of potential losses. Poorly managed financial, technical, and human resources. Spontaneous behavioral reactions and generalized pandemics. That's what WHO is always proposing, mental health, improving the mental health conditions. Rumors regarding the spread of the virus and the disease, the epidemic. Exposure to elements including the living conditions, food and nutrition. The risk of epidemic, infectious diseases after a crisis is related to the endemic levels of virus, including the vaccination, rehabilitations, water supply, food safety, basic sanitation and personal hygiene, other zoonotic diseases, investment in research and development. So WHO decides on the exception that the global health emergency and of international concern, this talks about a few points. Autonomy in disease surveillance across the globe need to be uh, provided. Proactive surveillance measures, international health regulations, decision making during the crisis, independent decision making. But actually, here one of the critical point over here is the global health diplomacy. We have funding based on several conditions, which will have a negative impacts on healthcare system. Rapid international responses, rapid political will, sorry, raising political will, information sharing. So therefore, political action is needed to create adaptable institutions and strengthening capabilities of the countries. In order to deal with the globalizing risk and localizing threats, challenges of international community is needed, global health cooperation and security, crisis management, coordinated funding in public health emergencies, access to measures to prevent, treat, and control the pandemic. Humankind needs a new vision, new architecture, new coordination among renewed system to ensure central health capabilities for all. So we have an interesting book on 21st century global health diplomacy. In this book, so again another book, they consolidated two major roles, lessons that can be learned as part of the global health governance based on the Ebola experience and COVID experience. This is, if you are not preventing these in pandemics on time, it can lead to a national emergency. Actually, it is happening right now across the globe. Need for dedicated funding for staffing, equipments, and resources that the global governance can provide, funding from the multilateral organizations, appropriations to support state, local, and other health departments, the need for preparedness, efforts to protect people and support communities, need for early public health countermeasures, mitigation, ensuring the health and safety of populations, linkages among all levels of state and non-state actors. So, when we say the state and non-state actors, those organizations broadly classified into 5 categories: international health regulators, which includes WHO, USA, UNAIDS, World Bank, WTO, ILO, UNEP, UNICEF; informal institutions including G8, G20 are the health ministers meeting; multi-stakeholders including Gavi, GFATM, Rollback Malaria, Gates and Clinton Foundations; regional organizations including EU, ASEAN, AU, PAHO; emergency WHO summits. Based on the pandemic situations, WHO may conduct a special summits, which includes, SARS-1 we had, Ebola time we had, Zika time we had, and during the COVID-19 time we had another summit. So therefore, so all those summits and organizations are coming together to deal with the impacts of COVID-19. So this table is the data based on several countries' experiences. It includes Italian experience, recognizing your cognitive biases. That's the reason they had a major problem. Avoiding partial solutions, for example, South Korean experience, as well as in Indian experience, partial solutions. Learning is critical at this juncture. Extensive testing of sympathetic and asymptomatic cases early on, proactive tracing of potential positives, a strong emphasis on home diagnosis and care, specific efforts to monitor and protect healthcare and other essential workers. Like for example, Australian and New Zealand case is the best model to learn this particular point. They were literally protecting their healthcare workers. Collecting and disseminating data is very important at this juncture. For example, South Korea, Japan, Sweden, they are doing such a beautifully this way, the collecting data and disseminating it for research. So resilience of affected and infected individuals. Again here, New Zealand case and Australian case. And then welfare of farmers and laborers. For example, Kerala model. They are really doing good job. Social protection measures, test and test again. WHO, IMF, they are again and again suggesting across the globe to do only three things at this juncture: test and test, trace, test and treat. Robust collection of health data, epidemiological database for health policies to ensure public health surveillance. So together, these health implications, I have already highlighted major problems in the economy. One additional point I would like to highlight: UN high-level meeting on universal health coverage suggested that moving together to build a wealthier world. When we look at all these implications, it's a high time we must move together to deal with the issues. So priority areas of global health governance, there are 10 major priority areas. Assessment of global health landscape, then only we'll come to know the strength and weaknesses of the existing system. Accept and recognize epidemiological, environmental, and economical crisis instead of always comparing other states, comparing other countries. We must accept the problems first, then only we can come out with the direct intervention strategies. Health regulations, we need to strengthen the regulations. Tobacco control, healthcare service delivery system, innovative infection control, the global research collaborations, universal coverage, public health surveillance, and also we need to restructure SDGs 2. This was given by Michael and Ostrom in his book on Deadliest Enemy. So what is there beyond COVID-19 and international development? To identify innovative and culturally adaptable measures to prevent such kind of crisis beyond economic lockdown, so that we can prevent hunger, we can prevent several other problems. To identify easily available, culturally adaptable local technology which is easily accessible and affordable to everyone, ensuring that the most vulnerable population, including informal sector workers, are consulted and included in the planning and response process. Organizing communities to ensure that essentials, including alternative livelihood opportunities such as food, clean water, and essential healthcare and other services are available. For example, lockdown or after the lockdown, if you are not providing these services, it may lead to mega crisis. Advocating priority-based social welfare services and in social policy environment that serves services adapt, remain, and open to proactive in supporting communities and vulnerable populations, particularly women, children, elderly, and persons with special needs. Facilitating easily acceptable physical distancing with social solidarity. Advocating for advancement and strengthening of social welfare services as an essential protection against the disaster or against the pandemic. Identify adaptable or easily doable strategies, remain open and adapt to the conditions as largely been successful for example or adapting the best practices. So we have a paper in Social Science and Medicine Journal, Global Health Diplomacy, a critical review of the literature. They were highlighting there is a need for wider collaborations between international relations. Global health scholars will definitely improve the understanding of global health diplomacy. So we have another data by CDC in United States. They have presented certain goals and objectives of the global health strategies. This is the health impact. We must have the policies related to save lives, improve health outcome, and foster health populations globally. Like similarly, they had two more objectives. To develop capabilities at all levels for emergency and pandemic prevention and management, reactive state leadership, mobilizing women's leaderships, participation and accountability to strengthen inter-organizational coordination, local responsibility with the center's coordination. The top 10 financial contributors to WHO, when the United States proposed that they may withdraw from WHO, it raised several academic debates across the globe because of this particular financial allocation. Look at this table now. Spending remains a big business, and next few years would be extraordinarily surprising. So really need at this juncture huge dedicated funding to deal with emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. This particular pandemic is a wake-up call to invest more on public health infrastructure. So of course, we are dealing with the political economy of health crisis. So we had a joint committee report, joint committee by London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and Harvard School. They have proposed 6 major points while dealing with the global crisis. We need to ensure, with the help of the multilateral agencies, timely access to vaccines, incentives for early reporting, failure to prevent antimicrobial resistance, migration of health workers from developing and developed countries, the deterioration of uh, in the social determinants of health, accountability with clear leadership. In the recent outbreak, projected a few more additional points: hazards and risk assessment, prevention and mitigation, incident management, resource management, communication strategies, operations and training, exercising evaluation, corrective action, and continuous quality improvement. At this juncture, we need a coordinated effort in preparedness of and response to the public health emergencies. Coordinated effort means not just only the local level coordinated effort, regional level, national level, and international level. So Ebola epidemic highlighted several problems which may be similar to the COVID crisis: insufficient health surveillance in fragile states, lack of any multi-stage decision-making mechanisms, inadequate coordination between the WHO, developed and humanitarian organizations, necessities of establishing the UN mission for Ebola emergency response. We may need to do it for even the COVID-19. Insufficient funding for complex health emergencies. All these 5 points are directly linked with COVID-2. So indicators for success in the global health governance, there are 9 indicators. Global health governance innovations means the innovations in terms of technological innovations, in terms of research and development, in terms of IEC, information, education and communications, greater engagement by multi-stakeholders with trust, mutual understanding, transparency, social accountability, evidence-based policies, priority areas of health, global economic well-being, emphasis on economic opportunities, global public health surveillance system, reinforce self-discipline including citizens, and political will. Therefore, WHO came up with a lot of financial supports to those developing countries with conditions. All those conditions were having a negative impacts on the existing healthcare service delivery system. That was one of the major critical problem of the global health governance. So innovative, cost-effective healthcare service delivery models are needed at this juncture. For example, a case of HIV/AIDS, Ebola, and AMR, we had a lot of interesting global health diplomacy initiatives to deal with these issues. But altogether, they came up with the cost-effective health service delivery models to deal with those crises. So, to sum up, these issues are led to some more areas that required further analytical exploration. For example, to understand the COVID-19 crisis life cycle, causes and consequences, recovery, mitigation, response, and preparedness, revisiting data sets, redefining relevant methodologies, facilitating access to online resources, and exploring culturally relevant approach. Search for relevant information sources and try to compile proper data of active closed COVID cases and their relatives for further research. To explore the COVID-19 impacts on social development, human happiness, well-being of helping professionals, their families, and others in the community. Synthesis evidences rapidly synthesis evidences rapidly and to provide massive interventions guidelines, long-term strategies for human happiness, well-being, and social and economic crisis that again required some more research, ensure adequate quality of your work, and communicate the same with multi-stakeholders, including policy briefs, strengthen the community-based crisis risk management, replicate the best practices, for example, Cuba model, Japanese model, South Korean model, New Zealand model, Kerala model, learn from the field. So the last part, policy brief. So based on the global governance issues and then the Kennedy School of Governance at Harvard, they came up with few suggestions for improving the policies across the globe. It's the right time we must provide credible communications to the public without politicizing the message. That means provide provision of reliable information. Drawing together, that means working together at all levels. The public sector must lead a whole of society global approach to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Government needs to focus on providing authoritative information via multiple sources to ensure accurate data, to slow the spread so that we don't stress our health system all at once. For example, in India, we need healthcare facilities for many other problems, including TB, including malaria, including HIV, including cardiovascular diseases, diabetics. So that, therefore, so they are proposing here this point to slow the spread of the COVID-19 so that we can spare some of the facilities for the other population. Increasing transparency to recognize the potential for psychological burnout, because there are several suicides are happening across the globe. And again, therapeutic and vaccines need to be invented as early as possible. Government need to strike a balance between protecting health and respecting human rights. New priorities areas we need to set. The government should address the long-standing challenges of health and nutritional issues, especially among low-income households, to strengthen food supply chains. So the future issues and most effective intervention of global health diplomacy, here what I'm going to present 8 major points. Creation of effective mechanisms to enable the international organizations to deal with the crisis. Significance of global movement for health to establish pathways through which multiple actors can work together. Power and legitimacy within the global health. The first challenge, there's a need for strong global health governance to deal with economic and the business crisis due to COVID. Second, we need to break the myths. We need to bring the realities between those multi-stakeholders, including the bilateral and multilateral organizations, to provide coordinated efforts and long-standing collaborations to deal with the crisis, which will ensure the accountability, transparency, and regulations. Therefore, we need to control or minimize the condition-based funding on health and development. So multi-stakeholders, here we have several stakeholders. The international aid organizations, donors are one of the major stakeholders in this particular cycle. The next challenge, evidence-based policies, understanding of pandemics risk in all of its dimensions, interlinking of disease, disaster management, and development planning. Relevance of database here to generate reliable data. Every organizations in this world, whether in United States or other developing countries, they are insisting again and again to have a data for policy, to generate a reliable data on epidemiological information and to guide policy making and the implementation process. Therefore, we need an authentic source of information. Another point over here, challenges here. So we need to have an integrated alternative livelihood enhancement programs to deal with the universal health coverage schemes across the globe. And we need it's a time we requires greater engagement of all parties, including legal enforcement organizations, to provide justice to everyone, not just punishing one group. So we need to form a new form of governance for global health, which will have more public accountability, to build partnerships with the nations, especially with citizens' participation. To sum up, so few points: to strengthen public health surveillance and preparedness for pandemic management through research, capacity building, and action. These were the success mantra of WHO. Collaborating with institutions to provide support in surveillance, preparedness, and capacity building during the public health emergencies. Development and delivery of training courses. That's what the WHO was doing, developing a lot of courses. Strengthening sustainable institutional mechanisms to deal with the crisis, to control virus transmission risk factors, inter-regional and national public health and emergency management models, global health diplomacy, which should ensure timely access to essential medicines, resource sharing, and investment in research and development. So, this particular pandemic uh, had a major impacts on those aspects like loss of lives, injuries, economic loss, loss of infrastructure, disturbance in the global border, health inequity, educational impact. All the schools, colleges, universities have been closed down. Gender issues, domestic violence, individual isolation, psychological impact, economic impact, political impact, environmental issues, like religious impact. Now, who can play a major role? Right now, those multilateral and bilateral agencies can play a major role for they can bring out the effective strategies and effective mechanisms to enable the international organization to deal with the crisis, and ultimately this will help the long-term social and economic consequences aspects. But all these problems were poor countries or individuals are more negatively affected. Therefore, we need a support from those organizations. This has a multiple of economic, political, and the social implications. At this juncture, we really need an impact assessment. Just to conclude, healthcare crises are on the rise. It's time to care and future of our global health. Implement pragmatic and innovative approaches to deal with pandemic management across the globe. Develop strong linkages between strategic partners, which include state and non-state partners. Develop alternative resource mapping strategies. Strong institutional and legal framework needed at this juncture to build sustainable society. Diplomacy, persistence in change, that political negotiations and solutions are needed at this juncture. Ultimately, we need to have the committed political will to deal with the above mentioned points. It reminds me to share one of the quote by our father of our nation: potential public health disasters, collective action to address the global health issues. The earth, the air, the land, and the water are not an inheritance from our forefathers, but on a loan from our children. So we have to hand over to them, at least as it was handed over to us. This will, if we follow this particular idea, definitely we can prevent several disasters, several problems. We can save our future generations. Therefore, during the lockdown period, my humble request, please stay home. Otherwise, this particular virus will be looking for you. Where is everybody? And then it will be thanking you if you are coming out. Thanks for coming out. Stay safe, healthy, connected, and keep learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Sigamani sir, for sparing your wonderful time with us. And especially we must thank Sigamani sir for the information of the participants. We have approached Sigamani sir only some 2 days before only. So since due to unavoidable circumstances, one of the resource person were not able to deliver the lecture. So though we approached the resource Sigamani sir at the last minute, so he has come with more preparation. So on behalf of the Department of Political Science and its professor and head, Dr. Subramanian sir, and coordinators, I express my sincere thanks to Sigamani sir. Now this session is open for discussion. And those participants who want to get clarification from the resource person can raise your hands. First, let me unmute Dr. S. Sumadi. Yes, Sumadi, just unmute from your side.
I'm sure, sir, like within 1 hour, I tried my best to consolidate all
Yes,
those
sir,
points.
it's a very informative, sir, certainly. Sumadeep, just unmute from your side. So meanwhile, Sumadi, there is no response from Sumadi. Meanwhile, there is a question from the participant from the chat room. He's asking that whether the response of the Indian government to COVID-19 is effective to control it. So one of the participants raised the question.
Sir, I guess it's not a question, it's an hypothesis. We'll come to know that the answer for this question may be at the end of November or December.
Okay.
In terms of number of cases, reported number of cases we have dealt with, the problem, everything, we'll come to know the exact answer only at the end of November or December.
Okay, sir.
That's an hypothetical situation.
Right.
Now, I feel we need to take more proactive measures rather than simply comparing others, just presenting only data. We need to take an active role while dealing with the crisis. Of course, the government is trying their best to do at their level, and citizens, we should also cooperate with the government. We should strictly follow the containment measures, protocol, lockdown measures, couple of other things, so that at the end of November, that we should also take part in that number of cases, infections. It's not just only state. All of us have to play a major role. Of course, the state response will come to know only at the end of November or December.
Thank you, sir. Now I just unmute Dr. J. Subramaniam, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you, sir, for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you, sir.
My question is, nowadays, due to the COVID, even who has given a more importance to the palliative care system? The healthcare system nowadays, even due to the coronavirus, people are much affected by psychological disorder. All over the world, nobody cannot be able to solve it due to the psychological disorder, especially those are having a palliative care system. Those are having a continuous chronic disease, or they're having they have a post-trauma syndrome, the PTS. That is a major drawback in all over the world, because those who are having a palliative care system, those who are having a chronic disease, they are having a trauma because of this lockdown, and they don't have any psychological counseling, even though it is a major, even nation to nation also, where even webinar or through internet also, we cannot do the counseling for needy people. So how we are going to tackle this kind of the PTS syndrome, post-trauma syndrome for the palliative care system? And what is your opinion on that one, in the health diplomatic aspects?
Sir, exactly, that's what those multilateral organizations are strongly proposing. This is the right time we should come out with the felt need assessment, impact assessment, as well as felt need assessment. We need to focus on the most important requirements, as well as strengthening our healthcare system to deal with or to address the health needs of populations other than COVID. So I know, sir, this is a very critical and very important questions. It's a wake-up call for all of us. We need to have a system in place to deal with such kind of crisis. That's what the philosophy of the sustainable development. The development of the present generation without the compromising the needs of the future generations. So providing healthcare services to the COVID patients without compromising needs of the non-COVID cases. For example, IMR, MMR, death due to tuberculosis, death due to other diseases like diabetics, cardiovascular diseases. It's a high time we must realize our potential, and we must invest more on health and infrastructure. This COVID taught a very big lesson for all of us. Health is nothing but not just only biomedicine. Health is nothing but social development, economic development, political empowerment, isn't it, sir? Investment in across. Therefore, we'll have a system to deal with such kind of crisis.
Thank you, Segamani, sir. Just again, Sumati is raising the question again. Sumati, now is it okay for you? Sumati, participant Sumati. So no response from Sumati. All right. Is there any participant who want to raise the question? Can ask. So one of the participants in the chat room asked that why now the pandemic is more spread in India, but we are not more careful than we had. What is the kind of a social thinking it changed us to be less careful with more transmissions?
That's really a very good question, sir. Actually, lockdown after lockdown, what is happening? There is no seriousness across all of us. Whether those who are in the system dealing with the problem, citizens, community, now we are all become kind of used to it. After 3 months, everything will be over. How it will be over? We will be used to it. We will learn to live with it. That's not a good idea to deal with such kind of pandemic crisis. It is the most infectious disease. Therefore, we need to take a timely intervention. Individually, as a family, as a community, together, there is something called the practice of self-discipline. Follow the protocol given by the World Bank, Government of India, state governments. Every level they've given a protocol to follow the lockdown strategies. Okay, so that's what the self-discipline is needed at this juncture.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, Segamani, sir.
Thank you.
Now
thank
it
you,
is a time to thank Segamani, sir. So as I have pointed out already, at the last, though we have approached the Segamani sir at the last minute, he has come with a complete preparation. So your lecture was very informative, very impressive, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And I think the
let me take this opportunity to thank our dearest friend, Dr. Mail Vaganan.
Yes.
Associate Professor Niaz. He was the one who gave the reference. I never say no to him. We were close friends.
Thank you, sir. So Mail Vaganan sir has given a right person to replace him. So thanks to Mail Vaganan sir also. So Mail Vaganan sir was a resource person here. Some 3 days back, and he has delivered a lecture as a resource person in this FDP. So he was the student of Department of Political Science, Annamalai University.
Wow, that's great.
Right. So with this, we have taken advantage with these people so that we can approach them with more right. And we can even demand them to find out, identify suitable resource persons. So it was a right choice. So thank you, Segamani sir, for your wonderful lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Segamani sir. Now it's a time for feedback from the participants. So there are 5 participants expressed their willingness to express their feedbacks in the program. First, let me ask each candidate, each chapter. First, let me ask Ram Naresh Yadav. Ram Naresh Yadav, you just please unmute. You proceed.
Yes. First, good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Ram Naresh Yadav, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, Government Girls Degree College, Azamgarh. Azamgarh is my working place, but my hometown is Banaras, Varanasi. I am grateful and thankful to organizing committee for organize a very valuable FDP, and special thanks to most respected Dr. C. Subramaniam, HOD and convener, Dr. J. Subramaniam, co-convener, Dr. Neelam Pandey ma'am, co-convener, for provide me an opportunity to present feedback about the 7 days FDP titled COVID-19 and New International Order. I congratulate to organizing committee for a successful FDP. This FDP was even better than I imagined. I really enjoyed it, this FDP for many reasons. Interacting with professionals and educators from various disciplines who all have delivered useful information were really excellent and inspiring. We all feel that we learned a lot about new international order during COVID-19 through this FDP. It was awesome and well presented. I found this FDP was really helpful to understand international order and international relations during this pandemic period. Very special thanks to the great speakers who provide us, who deliver us very useful, informative, knowledgeable thoughts. And all member of organizing committee were very cooperative. And I again thanks to organizing committee. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Naresh, Ram Naresh Yadav, for your opinion on the program. Now I just request I unmute Polly Bomik. Polly Bomik.
Hello.
Yes, you proceed.
Yes. Very good afternoon to respected organizing team of the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, all the resource persons who warmed us with their valuable speech and knowledge, and all the participants of this FDP. I am Polly Bhomik, Assistant Professor in Hindi, Ram Thakur College, Badhagat, Agartala, Tripura West, a small and beautiful state of the Northeast. First of all, I am very much thankful to the organizing team, Dr. C. Subramaniam sir, Dr. Neelam Pandey, and all other members of the organizing team of Political Science and Public Administration, Annamalai University, for organizing this online FDP on current issue, that is COVID-19 and new international order. From this FDP, I have learned much more. I came to know many things about this dangerous pandemic. I am enriched with knowledge regarding COVID-19 pandemic. I may like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to all the resource persons for giving us excellent coverage of the topic with their wonderful PPTs, presentations, and also answering our queries regarding the topic. Thank you to all. Thank you, sir. Thank you again.
Thank you, Polly Bomik, for your feedback on the program. Now I unmute Yashwant Kumar.
Good evening, sir. Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
So I am Dr. Yashwant Kumar, all party. So Faculty Department of Computer Science, S University Tirupati. So it is a wonderful opportunity for us, sir. So we are conducting a very well faculty development program on COVID.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear
Yes,
my voice?
yes, proceed.
COVID-19 and new international order. So it is not a such much of easy faculty development program, sir. So that means here it is a 22 to 28th of this day. So that means here more than 1 week faculty development program. So each and every day, so we are looking in a very nice manner. So that means here there is no interruption regarding the voice or anything, sir. So but here, so it is a wonderful opportunity for us to learn more about the COVID-19 and the pandemic situation, how to withstand in this situation. So not only for the faculty members, it is also very useful for the teaching, non-teaching, and the students also, sir, who are involved in this program. So I once again thankful to the organizing committee, especially Subramanian sir and Neelam Pandey madam and S. Balamurugan sir. So actually, first of all, I was very much thankful to the organizing committee, Balamurugan sir, and then Neelam Pandey madam and Subramanian sir. So I am very much thankful for giving me an opportunity to participate in an excellent and wonderful faculty development program. So COVID-19, so an international orders. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashwant Kumar, for your opinion. Now I request Nagaraj Vadapalli. Nagaraj Vadapalli, just unmute your mic and proceed.
Thank you, sir. Respected dignitaries on webinar, and respected organizers of the webinar, Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Annamalai University. And this is Dr. Nagaraju Vadapalli, Kagati University, Warangal, Telangana State. I am very thankful to organizers. For particular, I have few reasons to say this is a very wonderful event in particular COVID-19 situation. First of all, I would like to thank organizers to make me a part of wonderful event, which is most relevant and useful uh, to understand the present world situation uh, during and after Corona 19. And second reason, whenever I tried to communicate them, they responded very nicely and provided information as positively. So I would like to thank once again, sir, for organizers. And one more thing, I am very thankful to organizers to select very good resource persons who have excellence in the subject of the webinar, and the way the resource persons explained and give the explanations to the participants' questions is very useful to us in understanding the coronavirus and its impact on the daily life of the people. And one more thing, I am also convey my sincere thanks to moderators who coordinated the whole program among the participants and resource persons while participants asking the explanations or by clarifying their doubts. Finally, I would like to extend my appreciation to the co-participants who raised very important questions about the present situations. So by all these things, I am very happy to uh, feel it is very useful and understanding about the dangerous things what we have since the 4 months. So for this opportunity, I am very happy to thank to my organizers. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nagaraj Vadapalli, for your interesting, effective feedback. Now I just I request Sagar. Sagar, you please unmute and proceed. Yes, Sagar. Sagar, they have unmuted. Okay, so since there is no response from Sagar, so we move on to the next stage of the session, and there are some important announcements. So one thing is we have sent in your WhatsApp number about the name list, about all the name lists have been sent into your WhatsApp number, and you just please check the name list. So everyone's name is there. This will be there in your certificates. So please check the names and its spellings. So if there is any correction in the spelling or in the name, you just inform us at the earliest, so that the certificates will be uploaded tomorrow. Sorry, day after tomorrow. So that before that the corrections has to be carried out, so that it will be easy for us to do it. So that is the first announcement, is to check the names which have been sent to you in your WhatsApp number. Another thing is about examinations. The questions will be, as I told you in the inaugural session itself, there will be 25 multiple choice questions. Sorry, 20 multiple choice questions will be there. These questions will be there. The link for the questions will be shared in the WhatsApp group soon. I think the questions are ready now, and around it is now time is 4 o'clock. So after around 5:30, 6 o'clock, the link will be shared in your WhatsApp group. And one important thing is you just open the questions and answer it by the maximum of before tomorrow 12 noon. So questions will be shared in today evening, and you have a time up to tomorrow 12 noon. So that we can then next day the certificates, e-certificates will be uploaded. That is day after tomorrow, that is on Tuesday. So Tuesday you can download the certificates from the university website, Once you enter into the university website, there is new courses will be there. And moreover, we send the link also. Once you just touch the link, it will take you to the entire area. And there you have to enter your mail ID as the password. So that will, then you can download the certificates. So these are all the two announcements. And this is a high time to thank all those personalities, individuals, and institutions who are behind the successful conduct of this program. So conducting a 1 week program, the two in online mode, has some difficulties, challenges, obstacles all there. So to come across all these obstacles at different stages, we need the support of some individuals and even institutions. For example, getting the permission from the university, higher authorities, and fixing the resource persons and paying the necessary fee to the website, approval, allotting it. And very importantly, the day-to-day logistical problems. All these are our obstacles and the challenges, but we have successfully overcome all those challenges and obstacles because of the support and help and motivation and inspiration from some individuals and institutions. Let me begin with our Vice Chancellor. So whenever our head of the department approaches the Vice Chancellor with a proposal to conduct an event or a seminar or a program, Vice Chancellor immediately accepts it and approves it and gives the necessary permission. Not only giving permission, he always keeps an eye about the growth of the conduct of the program. That really motivates us. Then our registrar. It is because of the logistical support extended by our registrar, we are able to conduct the event successfully. Our sincere thanks to our registrar. Then the Dean Faculty of Arts, Dr. Professor Ramagopal sir. Professor Ramagopal sir not only encouraged us, but also has given the inaugural lecture in the inaugural session. So to him also, we express our sincere thanks to him. Then our Director Innovation Center. The Director Innovation Center, so they have designed the brochures and they have uploaded it. And the day after tomorrow, they are going to upload the certificates. So we express our sincere gratitude to the Director Innovation Center. Very importantly, Dr. Vadivaragan sir, the programmer. So he has been helping us in all the programs. So this is the 4th program we are conducting in the department. In all the programs, Vadivaragan sir has been helping us at different levels. Then very importantly, the resource persons. So you might have seen it during the brochure. You can see that how the resource persons are diverse in different disciplines. They are from different states. They are from different institutions. They are from, some of them are from different countries also. So in order to fix them, so we need to take much effort. Our head of the department has taken much effort to fix them. And more importantly, you might have seen it, all the resource persons have come with a complete preparation with the PowerPoints also. So our sincere thanks to all those resource persons which made the program a fruitful one to all the participants. Then I personally express my sincere thanks to our professor and head, Dr. C. Subramaniam sir. It is because of his tireless efforts, we have been organizing series of programs during this lockdown period. And this is the 4th online program we are conducting in the Department of Political Science. First one was Introduction to Human Rights. The second was Human Rights Education for Women. And third one was Life Skills. And this is the 4th one is FDP. All these 4 programs, it is because of the tireless work of our professor and the head of the Department of Political Science. So I, on behalf of my coordinators, Dr. Neelam Pandey and Dr. J. Subramanian, we thank our head of the department sincerely for his tireless and inspirational efforts on us. Then I thank my coordinators, fellow coordinators, Dr. Neelam Pandey madam and Dr. J. Subramanian sir, for the support and the motivation throughout the program. And very importantly, our technical team. Mr. Sivanesan and Narmada, a research scholar and a postgraduate student. It is both of them have been doing the work, the other work. They are behind the screens and they have been doing the work, the technical work. So conducting a program through online, it is very difficult. Whenever we conduct the programs, we need to face some challenges, difficulties, technical problems are all there. So it is because of them, we are able to manage the program successfully. Our sincere thanks to technical team, Sivanesan and Narmada. Not last but not least, it is finally the participants. It is you. It is because of your contribution, it is because of your meaningful participation, this FDP has become more successful one. So I could see some of the participants are very punctual. Even if it is at 10:30, 10:20 itself, some of the participants come and just waiting in the waiting room. And even in the 2:30 program, 2:20. So it shows the enthusiasm, interest. This kind of enthusiasm and interest only will be a fuel and an inspiration like us to conduct the program successfully. So anyhow, for all these things, I thank each one and all for all the contributions you have made to this program, a grand successful one. So thank you one and all. Thank you all. Thank you.